The popular Brookthorpe track in Gloucestershire was to be the venue for this year's Girls' National. Some of the fastest girls from across the country would come together to vie for the crown of Queen of the Dirt. Plenty of prior rain, a week of dry weather and some expert midweek preparation ensured for perfect riding conditions on the hillside venue. The weather for both days turned out to be ideal for riders and spectators alike, and once racing was underway, it provided a colourful and energy-packed event. It was the ladies in the combined MX1, MX2 and senior groups who got the action underway, and it would be the senior rider and number 145 of Grace Richards who would set the pace early on, ahead of a long weekend of racing. Grace looked fast by anyone's standards, and it quickly became clear she would take some beating on the day, despite it being a combined group. The MX2 class saw some great performances from the girls, with Eleanor Coulby on the number 20 and Rhea Truman on the number 2, chasing home the 461 of Nadia Jones in each moto. Both would push hard, but Rhea would mount the stronger charge of the two, finishing a close second in all 5 races, with Eleanor third. The tidy and consistent Jones would clean up though, with a full house of wins and a determined ride for the title. The bigger bikes certainly had the advantage out of the gate and were all featuring at the start. Tanisha Thomas on the 21 was to be this year's victor of the MX1 class and won 5 out of 5 across the weekend to secure the title. Louise Powell, 38, and Kelly Phillips, 53, posted good performances to close out the second and third spots. Turning a masterclass of motos though, it was Grace Richards who was undefeated all weekend across all categories and secured another successive senior title to her growing collection. Runner-up Grace Packman on the number 7 and Georgia Potter on the 284 fought all weekend for the second and third spots, with Grace finally sealing it on the Sunday with 2 consistent rides. Some of the best racing of the weekend came in the combined big wheel and small wheel 85 class, where every race was hotly contested and riders traded positions throughout. The impressive Holly Roberts put in a number of solid performances to secure third overall in the big wheel category, with 4 podium finishes to her name by the end of the weekend. All eyes were on the front of the pack though, where Rihanna Morgan-Rogers and Lucy Barker would scrap it out in each race, providing a great spectacle for all those watching. Rihanna would take 2 wins out of the 3 on the Saturday, edging it finally going into the second day, but 2 wins from the resilient Lucy Barker on the Sunday would ensure that overall victory would be hers. In the small wheel class, there was some equally tantalising racing as the younger riders scrapped it out with the bigger bikes. The 121 of Sienna Farmer showed good pace all day on Saturday with 3 solid podium finishes, but it would be the number 97 of Alicia Conduct who would take the 3rd spot on the podium over the weekend. Second place would go to the hard-charging Jacoby Rainey on the 41 with 4 second-place finishes, but the win would go to the untouchable Leah Rees-Evans who swept 5 out of 5 motos across the 2 days to cap a perfect weekend for the KTM rider. The male adult support group saw a number of riders out on new machinery. The 410 of James Barker would be among the top few in each race, often getting out front in the early stages. He would manage 3rd spot on the podium overall with some consistent rides, including 1 race win and 2 second-place finishes. Newly graduated Ben Musto on the 125 machine would take 2nd spot on the podium overall, with a 2nd and 3 third-place finishes. The third contender in the mix would be the number 5 of Billy Duke, who fought hard through the field in each race, and will go on to clinch the overall win with 4 podium finishes, including 2 race wins across the 2 days. In the girls' 65cc class, there were 4 contenders who proved to consistently have the speed and who would battle for position at the front of the pack in each race. But there were also some impressive rides and personal bests deeper in the field. The 176 of Olivia Salt managed 2 top 10 finishes. The 231 of Angelica Bennett would secure a 6th and 4 7th place finishes. The 83 of Tallulah Oram would grab 2 5th place finishes, and the 39 of Ellie Foams nailed 4 top 10 finishes across the weekend. The 741 of Grace Adshead would secure 4th overall though, just missing out on a podium finish to the 41 of Hetty Higgs, who landed 3rd. At the very front, there often wasn't much to separate the 44 of Poppy Banning and the 17 of Megan Williams in many of the races. Megan would eventually manage 1 race win and 3 second place finishes to secure 2nd overall on the podium, but it wasn't enough to match the dominant Poppy, who would secure top spot with 4 out of 5 race wins. Looking to add to her titles in 2021, defending champion Lily Senior got off to a great start with a win in the first auto race on the Saturday. Lily looked fast all weekend long and made light work of the challenging Brookthorpe circuit. Another rider with good pace across the weekend was the flamboyant Izzy Druce. You couldn't miss Izzy wherever she was on the track, and she only narrowly missed out on a podium position, securing a very solid 4th overall. Some consistent riding from Ava May Hulbert would ensure her claim to the final spot on the podium. Ava would manage 5 top 5 finishes, including 3 very strong 3rd place rides. A win and 3 second place finishes would cement 2nd place for Lily overall, but it was the 183 of Miley Evans who would dominate the event. Miley would take a win in the remaining 4 motos to secure 1st place on the podium overall. Some excellent outings to mention for the 11 of Amelie Banwell, the 90 of Darcy Booth, the 231 of Lexi Bennett, and the 5 of Sienna May Southern, who along with many others in their group would secure some hard-fought finishes throughout the event. In the combined male 65cc and auto support class, it proved to be a 2-horse race at the front between Archie Stapley and Ollie Truman in the 65s. Archie was super quick out of the gate each time, and Ollie would often be forced to chase hard so not to lose sight of his opponent in a stacked field. Caden Crane also showed great speed in the 65s and managed to avoid any carnage to secure 3rd spot on the podium overall. Archie would win one of the 5 motos across the weekend and finish a solid runner-up in each of the other races. With 4 race wins though, it would be Ollie Truman who would take the top step on the podium and the win in the 65cc class. Ollie seemed to have the Brookthorpe jumps completely dialed and looked super smooth all weekend. Many of the smaller 50cc riders in the auto class had no fear in jostling with the bigger and faster 65cc machines. Riders like the 572 of Harrison Ashwood McNeil and the 117 of Hendrix Prowse would fight deep in the field with autos and 65s alike. In the auto category alone though, it would be Mason Stadden taking the 3rd spot on the podium, Preston Chorley in 2nd, and the impressive 829 of Tate Vincent with the overall win across the weekend. The final race of the block was the combined big wheel and small wheeled 85cc male support group. With speed to burn, it was Gus Mustoe who would get out in front and set the pace in each race. Trying to keep him honest was a 79 of Wyatt McGregor aboard his gas machine. Wyatt would finish runner-up in all 5 races for second overall, but was chased hard by the third-place finisher Gethin Morgan each time they were out. It was Mustoe, though, who would eventually go on to take the win with a clean sweep of 5 out of 5 race wins across the weekend. With a near clean sweep of 4 out of 5 race wins in the small-wheeled 85s, it would be the 75 of Lewis Morgan who would take the overall win in the class from the 2 Bobbies, the 82 of Bobby Smith and the 2 of Bobby Farmer, finishing second and third respectively. With the dust settled and the titles claimed at this year's UK Girls Motocross National, riders would travel home with their heads held high, already hungry to come back next year and fight for their place on the podium.